Hey, good morning. It's Kay here on the homestead in Tennessee, and I'm finally getting into the garden to plant tomatoes. And it occurred to me, I've talked about this in other videos in the past, but a little short standalone video to give you 2 reasons why you might want to plant your tomatoes in a trench instead of digging a deep hole. I've got a big tree here, you can see it. So there are major roots that go underneath this particular garden down here. This is a 5,000 square foot garden that I converted from lawn 2 years ago into a garden. So last year was my first season having the whole thing planted. Go back and watch those videos. And then this will be my second. And last year I had Egyptian spinach and blue spice basil and all of that in this area. This year we set up these cattle panel trellises thinking it might be an additional place to grow tomatoes. This area gets more shade. I want to just tell you though, I am going to be planting in trenches here because first of all, I haven't had that many years to build up a deep soil bed. The soil is great, I'm going to give you a look at it, but it only goes down so far. I don't want to break my back digging deep holes. That's the third reason. And also, it's already May 17th, and my tomatoes have been ready to set out for 2 weeks at least. So they're starting to get, and I did not, because I kept thinking I was going to, I did not pot them up into the 3/4 gallons, which I usually do. So I'm going directly from these small 2.5 inch by 2.5, I think they're 3 inches deep, but they have been kind of, blown around on the porch for 2 weeks. So what I'm doing is digging about a foot, a little longer than a foot, trench for each one of these. And you see they're not that deep. And then I'm going to put a little compost and my slow release organic, IV organic fertilizer in here. And then I'm going to lay the plants in sideways, and I'll show you. But it's very easy once you take it out of here, see? You're just basically putting them to bed, and then you gently turn them to come up so that all that legginess in the stem, all of this, if you're new to tomatoes, all of this stem can develop roots if it's in the ground. So if you get all of that in there, you're going to have a stronger plant. And I was told this by a little Amish girl, told me that her daddy planted, that he put the tomatoes to bed, and she showed me how to do it. And that was years ago. So I'm going to get this finished, and then I'll show you the result. Okay, all my holes are dug. And the length of your trench depends on how much of your stem you want to bury. So it could be a foot long, it could be 14, 16 inches long, it depends. But I guarantee digging longer in your garden bed is not as difficult as it is going deeper, because you're always going to run into that harder, especially if you live in Tennessee. We have clay soil, and how much wonderful soil to grow in do we have sitting on top of that clay? That's always the question. Okay, so I am going to gently I took it out of the container, and I've got the seed ball here. This is kind of the lowest point you'll need. This is just going to gently curve. Now this will snap if you're not careful, but if you've got some length on there, it will absolutely bend. So plan your trench where you want the tomato to come up out of the ground. See, the tomato's going to come up out of the ground over here. The seed ball's over here. So once again, it prevents you having to dig a deep hole, dig down into clay, stay within your good soil, and then you can grow additional roots off of the stem. So those are the reasons to do it. Now this will be buried, so I'm going to pinch that off, and you put that right in the hole, and that feeds the plant, because these will be too low, and that's what you're going to have coming up out of the ground. Won't look like much, but it's going to really take off. Okay, see, I've got it coming up, and you do want to get that, if you're using a cattle panel or any kind of trellis, you do want to get it as close as you can so that it comes right up and leans against the trellis. So you bend it gently and then you just start packing it in. Look at this. I mean, this was lawn, crabgrass, and just all kinds of weeds 2 years ago. And 2 winters of cover crop. And look what you've got. It's incredible. And this is not even the best soil on this rectangle. It's underneath a pine tree, and this pine tree, I'm afraid, is dying. So those needles shouldn't be falling now, but they're still green in the tree. I'm not going to worry about it just yet. There's enough to worry, enough to worry about. Now I'm going to give that a good spray with Cap'n Jack's Bug Brew and top it off with compost around the plant. Come back and water it. I'm going to water at the end because I'm trying to work smarter, not harder. So that's why I dug all the holes, and then I walked over and just dropped in the fertilizer. And now this is the first time I'm on my knees. So that's how you do it. I'm doing 7 per cattle panel, 4 on one side and 3 on the other, staggered. And I only grow indeterminates. If you're growing determinate tomatoes, you could do the Florida weave. You wouldn't even need to go to the expense of a cattle panel and T-posts and everything. Well, you'd still need T-posts, but yeah, so let me get this done and I'll be right back. One more thing, try to work with the natural curve of the stem. No tomato stem ever comes perfectly straight up. And you can see how this one, if I lay it this way, it comes up more naturally. It's ready to curve that way. So keep that in mind. Job is done. I've got 21 tomatoes and 3 hyssop plants at the end. They're composted and composted. They have compost and water, and they're ready to go. I hope that's helpful. Please subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next video.